Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
So Richard Lederer it's quite famous, as a matter of fact, all over the country, probably the world, but we have him in our little corner of the world in South Florida. He writes articles for us, wonderful columns, and from time to time, I'm able to get him away from all the busy stuff he does and get him on the radio. And this is the time, and it's a special time, because he is going to be 80 years old, just a young puppy. Hi.
Hey there, a sexy octogenarian.
Oh, a sexy young puppy, okay.
And you know, Anita, I have always embraced the aging process in that I've been identifying myself as an octogenarian for about 6 months. Now, officially, it is May 26th. I entered the earthly stage in 1938, and things are going well. I mean, just to take today, as we're talking to each other, I've just come off of the tennis court.
I know you do this do you do this every day?
No, 3 times a week.
Oh, gosh,
I don't
wonderful.
want to play 2 days in a row. And, you know, we have some of the best old men in the world in Southern California, and all the rest of them are in Florida. But seriously, tennis has been shown to be one of the best sports you can play as you become chronologically endowed. And what I mean is, it is a running, breathing, thinking, decision-making sport, and you, of course, have several very fine tennis players in your, larger family, and that's how we met to begin with. And it is intermittent, it is social, it is relatively safe. But when you reach 80, watch out for charging the drop shots or for running backwards for the lobs that are going over. But it is a great sport, and my only problem is that a lot of the young pups that I play with are breaking down, and I go, come on back. I'm still doing my thing.
But Richard, you know what the latest sport here now is? The pickleball.
Pickleball, absolutely.
Exactly, and I don't know. I've never seen a pickleball game.
Yeah.
Is that good?
It's terrific, and you actually, I don't know if you go cruising, but that little, half-size tennis court, that actually is pickleball. This sport is 52 years old and the fastest-growing sport in America for obvious reasons, and that is the graying of America. It was invented in Washington State. It's a combination of basically badminton, tennis, and to some extent ping pong. And by the way, the name pickleball, everybody thinks it comes from the dog that was in the family named Pickle.
That's what they say.
It's wrong. The dog was named after the sport.
Really?
Remember, you're talking to me, Mr.
I know.
and actually, a pickle crew, Pickle, is a pickup crew that is a mixed crew, young and old, male and female. And when the game was first played, they just sort of put the family together, all sorts of different ages, and of course the 2 genders, and that's a pickle crew, and that's how the sport got its name. And that was an interview with the wife of the founder.
Well, I have to tell you why this is funny. You should say this, because I interviewed a man who has been bringing pickleball to a lot of the communities here, and he told me, because I didn't even know why it was called pickleball, he told me the dog story, so I'm going to get a hold of him.
Yep. Just do some Googling and you'll see.
Okay.
But at any rate, and it's very popular here, and it's really, you can paint 2 of those courts onto a tennis court. So my day, as we're talking, love, and I think I've told everybody out there when I was down for the Mensa annual gathering in Hollywood, Florida, just how kind you were to pick me up. We spent some time. You treated me to a meal. I gave you some books, which I hope have gone well with the family.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And that's what it's all about. But then tonight, as I do also 3 times a week, I play high-stakes poker. Texas Hold'em, a great American game and the greatest game ever invented. And, $300 buy-in, $1,000 swing in my games. Big money. And that has been great because it exercises the part of my brain at which I am not as natural. My children, of course, Annie Duke and Howard Lederer, had a mathematical mother, my first wife, but I didn't, so I never can get to where they are, but it's a great game, and it just has expanded my own mind, so it's the way to live if you can.
So let me ask you something that people keep saying, that the reason that so many people are smart after, as they're aging is they do crossword puzzles. Do you believe that?
Yes, in this sense, and I have my own book of crossword puzzles
Yes.
out, but the answer is yes, and there have been recent studies in the United Kingdom that show that playing word games, which certainly crosswords are, and they've just passed their centennial about, let me think it for a minute, 5 years ago, well, really 4, that you think better, you do better in tests of memory and logic, and that's a fairly recent study that shows that that is true. Push-ups are the mind, aerobics are the brain. Just as any other muscle is, you're benefited if you don't overdo it by exercising it. It's the same with word games, absolutely.
Oh, okay. But of course, what do you decide when you write your books? What makes you decide on a particular kind of a book? You've written so many.
And I know this is my 50th book. Stop
Oh,
me
my
before
God.
I write again. So here's an interesting response. This will be my last book. Not my last piece of writing, because as you know, I write for my metropolitan newspaper every week. And obviously I write for BoomerTimes, and I write for a number of other, periodicals, papers, and so on. So it's not that I'm going to stop writing, but I learned so much in The Joy of Names, and that's the book coming out. And as a matter of fact, Anita, I swear, because I was waiting a little bit after the tennis for you to come on, I just finished vetting the last final pass of the book. And what I mean, Anita, is these days an author can actually see the book in progress as it will look, as a corporeal artifact, so to speak. Because on the screen are the incredible illustrations for The Joy of Names and the text, and then I comment on the text. There's a mistake here. You put in 2 periods instead of 1, take one of them out, etc. And that's what you can do now. And I swear I just sent off saying, you got it all. We finally have exiled the gremlins. And what a great feeling. And then, of course, you come on. And here's what. First of all, you have to accumulate enough material that you feel you have a book, meaning that there is an extended collection that you have. And I will never again accumulate a more interesting topic than this book called The Joy of Names, which just grabbed me from the beginning, and I was learning as I went along. You have to believe that it is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I feel this is the best and most varied and most wonderfully illustrated book of any. And I read every book out on names, and I read like 20 baby books. And, on other shows, I will be delighted to talk about first names, last names, nicknames. Just to take one example, how does Robert become Bob? A lot of people have asked me about that. And how does, let me just think, William become Bill? And how is your great friend out there, folks, Richard Lederer? How did my first name, why am I such a dick? And it took me the whole length of writing the book to figure that out. And I finally came up with the answer. And that's just like 1/3 of a page of about a 150-page book. Just a delight. 12-hour days. You have to be so committed. And I am telling you, just the proofreading took me like a week of, I'd say, 6 or 7 hour days, day after day. I turn them in, He gets back to me. I say, "You've got these, but not that," and we just finished up.
Now, Richard, do you work on your computer to write all this? Is that how you do it?
Entirely.
But you didn't years ago. When did you make
That
the
is correct.
transition?
Well, when computers came out, because I said this is an incredible gift in that it makes you a better writer. And here's how. First of all, the research capability. So I'm writing, and I write about a certain person, let's say, as in the book Etienne de Silhouette, the Minister of Finance for Louis XV. And that's in a chapter about people whose names have become words. They're called eponyms. And I need his birth and death date. And, immediately, I don't happen to know that one. I go and I check several sources. Boom, I put it in. Amazing. The research possibilities where I get, about a person with an interesting name, and I check it through the, on the computer, through Google and so on, and I look at a number of sources to make sure that that I'm not doing something bogus. The other thing is in the writing itself. When I was teaching English, as you know, at an Episcopal church boarding school in New England, I would teach thesis sentence, thesis at the end, paragraph hook, second paragraph, topic sentence, following, third paragraph, hook to the third, and I don't do that in my writing anymore. I just start dumping data onto the computer, and then I get the thesis from the data, which I didn't used to do before, and it's just wonderful. And then sometimes, and I'm sure you've experienced this, you're writing something and you go, these two paragraphs should be reversed. It works better if one becomes two and two becomes one.
Right.
But darn it, and in the old days it was co-erasable bond and whiteout. Who uses that anymore?
Right.
Because now you just click, cut, paste, bing, up it is. My God, it's done. People, you're just a better writer. And in my case, I take some notes on a pad, but not many. I do almost everything on the computer.
Yeah, that's true. So when you, but I guess my question is, there's a lot to it. So now you said that you have all your information, you've sent it to the publisher. Is he the one that makes the decisions on the cover?
Interesting, and the answer is no, in my case. Now, what I'm saying is, in general, that is the case. The choice of the illustrator and the cover and the fonts and the sizes of the words is usually with the publisher. But in my case, it's almost all with me. First, I'm with a small publisher, and they're very pleased to have me. They have published almost a third of my books. So I have some clout there. I have a good relationship with them. And they know that I know good illustrators. Anita, you're going to get a free book from me just for all your kindness over the years.
Okay, thanks.
And by the way, if you show up at my 80th birthday,
right.
And I sent you stuff, of course.
I know, I got it, and I did send a note over and asked her if she wants to do this.
And there will be a free book for each of you, and you might want to tell her that.
All right.
Because it's just, but so it's my illustrator who is fabulous because he's a good caricaturist, and I have the decision on the cover, including the design of the cover. I provide the copy, meaning the words for the back cover, which they're very pleased about. And, I've got a little, my reputation, like my stomach, precedes me. So they're quite happy about that. But, if you're a fairly new writer, watch out. And if you go, let's say, to a book publisher or children's book and you say, look, this is my illustrator, you better use him or her, watch out, because many of the publishers will say, we have our own house artist, and it's our house style, and it's at your peril. But in my case, what the heck, I'm almost 80, and this is my 50th book. I deserve a little clout, shall we say.
I would say that's true. Right.
Yeah.
You need the clout. But now let's maybe you ought to really talk. I wanted to ask some questions about being 60. I think it's important.
80.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say, because you act like you're 60.
I get, sure.
You act like you're 60, so we don't want to say even 80. I know you're saying
you're
that
right.
you're 80, but what are you doing what are you doing at 80 that you did at 60 and never thought about it? I mean, you keep going on.
Love it.
What's happened?
Oh, what a great question. Yes, 80 is the new 60, and I guess death is the new 100 if you think about it. And we're getting, that's the fastest growing population,
I know.
And that is, centenarians, although, it's still not a very large group. But, hey, Anita, you and I plan to live forever. So far, so good. Right now, it looks good for us. Well, okay. So from 60 to 80, the following. I never thought I'd write 50 books. And actually, I was just almost getting started. My first big book, Anguished English, was when I was 49. I had school books, but most of this has been this blossoming later on. Second, I never thought I'd write children's books. I have 9 of them. Third, I never thought I'd write a book about names. And what happens with the tennis is that I actually got nationally ranked in age group when I was in the 65s. And, your tennis, we know all the reasons why your athletic ability deteriorates, where you're not setting your feet as well, your musculature in terms of following through. It gets harder and harder to hit a ball hard and keep it in the court. You can dink around, but you kind of don't want to do that. You don't want to slice and this and that too much, but it happens. And now, for example, I'm a huge net rusher, and until I was, I'd say, 70, off of every serve I come in, and, I'm fairly big, too. I've got a good wingspan. Now I come in only half the time because I'm getting beaten in that situation. So my decision is, oh, darn it, I'm not the player I was. Do I leave? And the answer is no. And I actually organize some of the matches. I'm the organizer. And I stay because I'm playing for my life. I know that this movement on the tennis court, thinking, this conversion of physical movement to the mind with which I make my living is important. And I like my friends there. I'm the oldest guy on the court. And a lot of them are breaking down. But I take my medical destiny, you have to do that, into your hands. Oh, my shoulder hurts, I can't play tennis anymore. Have it looked at. I stretch before and after each match. I have a total left knee replacement. I have a titanium left knee. I was playing poker 4 days later and back on the court in 2 months. Complete recovery, no pain.
Right.
Oh, boy, those... shoulder, hip, and knee replacements generate probably more patient satisfaction than any other operation. And I just had my second hernia, a mesh put in, because otherwise I'd be in pain and I can't play. So I'm doing my best, and then one day I can't do it. But for now, I can. And well, let's see if it goes away. Hey, the medical attention is free. I'm not going to go in for every little pain, but my left side is hurting. I go in. My uncle, Yanko Paravatsky, not my uncle, my grandfather, 30 years with a hernia from the age of 50 to 80. In the days that, Anita, you'll remember too, where there'd be a full page of truss ads in the newspaper.
Right.
and guys walked around, and women, women get them too,
Yeah.
A little less so. Your anatomy is a little better for that because we've got, that extra thing that can produce a hernia. I'm not going to say what it is. But, and now it's outpatient. Bingo, they fix you. You're limited for a couple of weeks. And I'm now in my 3rd week from it, and as the physician's assistant said, Rich, you can now lift buildings and run marathons. I thought it was a great
That's
line.
great. I love that.
So this week I'm going out and playing full bore, but what you lose first is your eyesight, and I mean, tracking a ball, you forget how to do that, but now it's coming back.
But as a writer, and all the two very most important things I think would be, in my opinion, your vision and your brain.
Yes, that's right, and to some extent your hearing, because if you let it go, you're isolated. And some of our folks are, and I'm saying, get the hearing aid. They're terrific. I don't happen to need one at this point, but if you do, there's nothing more isolating that you can't hear, and there is some relationship between loss of hearing and dementia, because you're getting isolated, you're less social, and we are a social animal, as we know.
Yes.
We are not born alone, and we are not meant to live alone. And I mean, if we do live alone, we want to get out with others, and so on. So at any rate, I do want to say that in the lovely BoomerTimes, in the May edition, there is going to be a piece by me on turning 80, my 80th birthday, that you'll be sharing with folks. And I'd love to read a little from it, unless we've run out of time.
No,
but
we're fine. We're fine. Why don't you do that? Okay. I loved it. I thought it was just beautiful.
You're so kind. So I'm going to read a few sections. I'm button-burstingly proud to announce that I'll be celebrating, in month on May 26th, my parentheses 80th birthday. And this is now called an analogy. It's an extended metaphor, this next longer paragraph. Some of us try to turn back our life's odometer. Others of us want people to know why we look this way. We admit that we have bumps and dents and scratches in our finish, and the paint job is getting a little dull. And sure, the fenders are too wide to be in style, and our seats are sagging. Really fun writing that. Right. The battery no longer holds a charge, and the headlights have dimmed, the hoses are brittle, and much of the original dire tread is worn away. The transmission stays in low gear and doesn't easily shift to high. We don't convert our fuel as efficiently as we used to, and climbing any hill is liable to cause sputtering. And then my favorite sentence, Anita, and whenever we sneeze or cough, our radiator seems to leak, and our exhaust system backfires. But you know what? We've traveled many, many miles, and some of the roads weren't paved. Wisdom and laughter are our shock absorbers. We've become classics. And then just the follow-up line, because so important to, the path that you've chosen. We're not alone. 518 million men and women worldwide are 65 or older, including more than 1 out of every 4 people in the United States. And then I go on to some various things, but I'll move right to the end, and I switch into, shall we say, eloquence, in my opinion. So this is the end. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle. Now that I am full of years and white of hair, and by the way, mine changed very late in my life, and I welcomed it. I was in my 70s before I had flecks of gray, but
really
turned white. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in our family, that tends to be the case. Now that I am full of years and white of hair, and the evening star glows in the sky, now that my yellow leaf falls from the bare ruin choirs where late the sweet bird sang, and that was from Macbeth and Sonnet 73 Shakespeare, I find myself filled with one overmastering emotion, gratitude.
Yep.
For my wife, Simone Van Eggeren, and the saucy Hollandaise I have so loved with her, she's Dutch, so a little pun there, for family which now embraces 7 grandchildren, for enduring friendships, for a lifelong addiction to learning. Folks, if you feel that you're obsessed, as I am, I think it's a great gift. You can have a great life not being obsessed, but I am just the most word-struck, word-besotted, word-bethumped wordaholic you will ever meet or read.
That's true. I just love, it's always amazing to me when you send me a new column or when I read some of your old columns that the way that you can take the words and And I know you don't look this up. It's just in your brain,
No,
isn't
I
it?
know. For the privilege of sharing my words about words in this space, meaning yours, for the abundant benison of our astonishing city, and in my case, San Diego, to which Simona and I moved 21 years ago and which felt like home the minute we set foot here. And, that just means when you have a oneness with your surroundings, and for the miraculous gift of life, what it has been and what it will become, hurrah! And that's, what a life.
It's interesting to be listening to television, watching the TV about Barbara Bush.
Yes.
And I didn't know very much about her, but the one thing that did surprise me, she had, of course, this white shock of hair. And did you hear the story of why that happened and all?
Tell me.
Well, her little daughter, their daughter was 3 when she got leukemia. And apparently Barbara Bush had black hair, and during that, she went completely white.
Right.
And she decided just to keep it.
Absolutely. I have encouraged my wife, and she has. I just think natural. And a man who's a man accepts that as part of life.
Yes.
You better diet. I need you to look younger.
So, Richard, with that, we are out of time, but I am so glad that you accommodated us for what you did, and I hope I can celebrate with you. I've just sent a note to Lil. I don't know. If I can't go, at least you'll know that I tried.
Hey, compulsive eye, I have to tell you, the marriage of the Bushes, George H.W. Bush is our longest live president, that has lived the longest, and their marriage of 73 years
I know.
is the longest presidential marriage.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Bye.
Take care of yourself.